Thor's death teased by Chris Hemsworth for next Thor movie. Let's see what the comic culture has to say about this and check this out.
Thor's next movie may be his last movie, as Chris Hemsworth prophesies his potential death. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Cosmic Culture, the channel where we talk all things major movie and television news, theories, breakdowns, and much, much more. Today we have an MCU update, specifically an OG Avenger update. We're talking about Thor, as Chris Hemsworth opens up and has what seems to be a very genuine interview, a few different quotes where he's talking about his future and the character's future, whether he's coming back or what lies ahead for the world's strongest Avenger. So we're going to be chatting about this and, of course, throwing in a few of our own theories in there as to what really could be laying ahead for Thor and Chris Hemsworth. If you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the other major movie and television news updates happening daily here on the channel. You can also follow me on my other socials, Instagram at Chris M. Rosser, and Twitter at TheCultureChris. Links to both of those are in the description down below. So, a particularly interesting interview happening with Vanity Fair as Chris Hemsworth talks about his future. Specifically, I want to talk about what he opened up with, saying that he would be willing to come back, but he also foresees a potential death for Thor: Love and Thunder. I also want to preface, he says several times throughout the interviews and several other interviews, and he has openly stated several times he loves playing Thor, and he will come back as often as Marvel wants him to, as of right now. But when Vanity Fair asks him about the conclusion for Thor, this is what he states. For sure, I feel like we'd probably have to close the book if I ever did it again. You know what I mean? I feel like it probably warrants that. I feel like it'd probably be the finale. But that's not based on anything anyone's told me or any sort of plans. You have this birth of a hero, the journey of a hero, and then the death of a hero. And I don't know, am I at that stage? Who knows? I don't need to read you guys the entire interview. We will go over a couple more quotes here because he says a lot of interesting stuff. But there are some points from this first segment that I really want to circle back to. Starting with the fact that he says this isn't any type of Marvel Studios intel. I'm not sharing any scripts or chats that we've had. This is just what I feel. The character begins and the character ends. He also says specifically here that if I were to come back, this would be the finale. Now, the assumption is that Chris Hemsworth has no more contracts, no more obligation to return, but the assumption also is that he will be returning. It was left pretty open-ended for Thor's story, whereas characters like Captain America, Iron Man, Black Widow, they had a very short ending. They either had their happy ending and got to live out their life, they sacrificed themselves to win in Avengers Endgame, but it had a conclusion. So for Thor: Love and Thunder to just end with him running around with love, it seems like there's some untold story there. Also, of course, there is the fans' massive cry for Rune King Thor, or something at least similar to it in the MCU. A powerful, bloodthirsty, vengeful Thor. And as of recently, although we have seen moments where we do see Thor's true power, for the most part he's been, we could call him a bit of a goofball. And I've enjoyed it, but I would be pretty sad if we didn't get that vengeful, angry Thor at some point before Chris Hemsworth hangs up the hammers. Last thing I for sure want to mention from this first segment is that he talks about, is he at that stage? Who knows? As I mentioned previously, he says several times he'll come back and play the character as long as they'll have him. But maybe he's getting to a point where he is getting a little tired of the character, or a little tired of playing this big, buff, jacked up dude. He even talks about in other interviews how draining it was to get ready physically for Thor this time around. How before he's been able to scale up, scale down, change the way his body looks and acts for different movies, but it was very hard for Thor: Love and Thunder. So maybe there's a little bit of realization there that he is aging, and maybe his time to play a superhero is coming to the end, and that could be what he's hinting at here. And then the last thing I do want to take from this segment is that Chris Hemsworth, although says that Marvel Studios had nothing to do with this conversation, they listened to their legacy actors. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and all others, Mark Ruffalo, have opportunities to pitch their ideas and what they think they should happen to their character, who they have embodied and basically become. So, although this might not be coming directly from Marvel Studios, this is some real insight into what ideas are swirling around for Thor, because Chris Hemsworth's opinion is certainly going to be appreciated when they get to the drawing board for the future of Thor. Now, he does say specifically that he does anticipate there'll be more. He was asked if there is more Thor in his future, and Chris Hemsworth admitted, stating that, "I don't know. I think there'd be more to say if people want to hear me say it." Which, let's be honest, we do. People love Chris Hemsworth as Thor. He is just embodied the character. He's become this character. And you really don't want to see a Thor without Chris Hemsworth. Even if it is a newer age in Marvel, we get to phase 5, 6, 7, it's going to be sad to see that transition, which will eventually happen. As it's going to happen with Captain America, or has happened with Captain America, will happen with Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. These transitions are inevitable. People have played these characters for 10, 15 years. Eventually you do need a break, even though there are fond memories for the actor, for the fans.
Yep.
The character has grown and become a huge part of who this actor is.
He's
but eventually there will be an end. Whether that's the next movie or 10 movies from now, there will be an end. And Chris Hemsworth seems to think that Thor needs to die in order for him to have that finale, to have that ending. Marvel Studios' plans, on the other hand, remain unseen and unknown, as we would expect, but we do have Secret Wars. That is going to have a ton of characters, different versions of Thor's, maybe different versions of Jane, or Mighty Thor, who might be introduced to the MCU main timeline Thor. Lots of fun possibilities that the multiverse really does open up, and we'd hate to see a huge team collaboration without getting Thor in there. Now, we know Kevin Feige has massive plans for Secret Wars. That goes without saying. But recently, we've had insider scoops saying that Kevin Feige is talking to everybody. Every single actor in the ring of Marvel, not just Marvel Studios, but from the Fox days, from the Fantastic Four, before Marvel Studios was in charge and the MCU was created, he's contacting everybody to try to make Secret Wars bigger than Infinity War and Endgame. He wants to have a quote-unquote portal-like scene where we're going to have all the characters come together, and my strong opinion is that Chris Hemsworth's Thor is probably meant to be there. Now, Chris Hemsworth is a free agent, not currently under any type of contract, and is not required to return, but since the fans are going to want it, we're all going to want it, and there's more Thor story to tell. Maybe we will get to see Thor sacrifice himself, since Chris Hemsworth thinks he needs to die in order to close the story, in the finale of the Multiverse Saga, much like how we saw Iron Man, Black Widow sacrifice themselves in order to bring peace and balance back to the universe. It's kind of a chosen one scenario where you have this legacy character who's been around since the early days of the MCU, and you know eventually it's going to come to an end, and you're trying to guess and figure out when. But according to Chris Hemsworth, who in every way or sense of the character is Thor, he thinks that Thor will end up dying. Now, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Are you excited for future Thor projects? Are you willing or wanting to see more Thor projects? Are you about done with this character who's been around for a long time? Let me know your genuine and honest opinions in the comment section down below. If you haven't already, consider subscribing, hit that notification bell, and I'll be sure to catch all of you guys in the next one right here on Cosmic Culture.
Yeah, please subscribe, like this video. Have a great night, and see you guys. Bye.